So I'm here with Lisa Patricia, and I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more. And I'm curious to hear, you chose the word solace and from the David White's book Constellations, where he really unpacks different parts about being a human being. And so I like to know what's meaningful about that word for you.
Yeah. Hi. I'm so glad that we get to have this time too. It the Constellations book has been so nice to get to know in so many ways, and I chose solace. It stood out to me because I think it spoke to a lot of different parts of basically human experience. And I'll read you kind of the one of the quotes at the very beginning of the chapter that spoke to me, and that is, solace is the art of asking the beautiful question of ourselves, of our world, or of one another in fiercely difficult and unbeautiful moments. Solace is what we must look for when the mind cannot bear the pain, the loss, or the suffering that eventually touches every life and every endeavor. When longing does not come to fruition in a form we can recognize, when people we know and love disappear, when hope must take a different form than the one we have shaped for it. And I thought that that was just kind of a lovely way of kind of noting much of what happens to us in life when we kind of come into contact with uh, many different parts of experience, some that really kind of shake us to our core, and the places that we need to go, the ways that we need to kind of go internal and ask ourselves um, some, really central or kind of focusing kinds of questions to help kind of muster what we need to be able to um, kind of find our ground and find our footing again and be able to move forward and move through the things that come to us, and just in the wild and wonderful aspects of living and being in the world.
Yeah, I like how you said the finding our footing
Mm.
and finding our grounding in in whatever experience is happening,
Yeah.
and how central that can be, and yeah, and connecting and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I like that you hit on the connecting part, because it it kind of speaks of a few different things, right? In terms of kind of the places that we go and find our footing, and that's not just an internal process, but it's in the context that we're in, and um, in our world, in our relationships. I mean, relationship is one of the central components of that. When I think of solace, for instance, I mean, I think it is a kind of going inward, but it's often when we're trying to reach for what we may need in moments of stuckness or moments of overwhelm or moments of real suffering and pain. I often find that there's this kind of looking inward to a sense of wisdom or knowing, and then a reaching outward too, to relationships in our life, and even the task of doing that, kind of asking ourselves the beautiful questions,
Yeah.
is how we are relating into ourselves, and kind of
Yeah.
using that to be able to inform and guide us and give us comfort and
Mm.
stability.
Yeah. There's something you said there that I was like, okay, there's like a combination of like our inner wisdom, right? And also seeking that outside, but kind of how there's in that solace, like, yeah, the inner discovery of our wisdom,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
and how that can, yeah, that can help help us kind of come out of something, um, an experience or
Yeah. Yeah, when as you're saying that, it's also it kind of it's that sense of, kinda like stretching our capacity to like,
Mm,
kind of going and like that the finding of the footing and the finding that source of wisdom kind of involves, especially in some of the hardest times, some of those as he says, the most unbeautiful
mm,
moments
yeah.
in experience of like, we find some of those places in us, and outside of us that maybe we weren't really familiar with,
Mm.
and we perhaps wouldn't have gotten in touch with or gotten the sense of, um, except for through those.
Yeah, which leads me to kind of wonder, like, how does humanist show up in your work as a clinician?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that much of the time, I mean, certainly this whole kind of process of encountering, the stuff of life that kind of like trips us up or kind of brings us to the sense of struggle or, loss or suffering or just really, challenge. Um, it's often the thing that causes us to reach out,
Mm,
kind of coming to our sense of, um, for some reason I'm thinking of kind of the self as our house and our internal house, and if we kind of get brought down to the studs at times through our experiences in life, um, where some of the facades and the things that we've maybe kind of held out here like get really kind of exposed and feel really raw, and the part of the process of finding our footing and finding our ground, um, I think that those are times where we may reach out then to others, either others in our world who are known to us or others who are not known to us yet, but we're kind of endeavoring to trust that we may be able to find, you know, a sense of solace, a sense of, you know, being seen and being understood, in others around us. And so I think that that is kind of that's such a, you know, central element in human experience. And I think that part of our, um, capacity to come into contact with some of those places in us, um, and then to reach out and figure out kind of what our next steps are involves a sense of transformation, and I think that as a clinician I see my role as one of being, being a place and a space where we can come into contact with those raw places where we are kind of
yeah.
brought down to the essential elements, and be able to wonder and to kind of have a sense of abiding curiosity for those places of internal kind of knowing and wisdom. And as David White puts it, this was one passage that really spoke to me about this idea when it comes to therapy, and clinical work is, um, solace is a direct seeing and participation, a celebration of the beautiful coming and going, appearance and disappearance of which we have always been a part. And that direct seeing and participation part is such a part of therapeutic work, where we are seeing these parts of ourselves. We are, um, knowing that sometimes we need and want to have more of a sense of contact, with others, and yeah, it's a place of being able to kind of in relationship do some of that finding those questions that help us kind of reorient to the places that maybe we know and those that we didn't quite have awareness yet were in us.
Yeah, it's like that discovering that happens in therapy and how
Mm.
that connects to the word, right? And what you were talking about, the word solace, of like the space that you're creating, like helping your client or guiding your clients in discovering their inner wisdom, right? Something they
Hmm.
already had,
Hmm.
um, and that they're going to be discovering.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, this was wonderful to kind of just hear a little bit more about how humanist shows up in your work and in your clinic as a clinician, and a little bit more about that word solace and what that means for you. And thank you for taking the time to sit here with me.
Thank you, Paloma.
Okay, have a good one.
You too.